Imagine surviving a plane crash in the middle of the Pacific, drifting for 47 days without food or rescue, fighting off sharks, and then being captured by enemy soldiers who spend years trying to break you. This sounds impossible, but it is based on the true story of Olympic runner and American soldier Louis Zamperini, a man who survives every nightmare thrown at him, only to face a prison guard determined to destroy his body, his hope, and his will to live. The story begins during the Second World War, as Louis serves as a bombardier aboard an American B-24 bomber flying over Japanese-controlled territory. His crew is targeting a heavily defended island when enemy fighter planes suddenly surround them. Bullets tear through the aircraft. Several men are wounded, and the bomber is damaged so badly that returning to base seems almost impossible. But Louis remains focused inside the nose of the plane, completes the bombing run, and then helps the injured crew members, while their pilot, Russell Phillips, known as Phil, desperately tries to keep the aircraft in the sky. The plane finally reaches the runway and lands, but when the crew steps outside, they discover hundreds of bullet holes covering its body, proving how close they came to dying. Louis is shaken, but surviving impossible situations is something he has been learning to do since childhood. Years earlier, Louis grows up in Torrance, California, as the son of Italian immigrants. He speaks with an accent, struggles to fit in, and is constantly insulted and attacked by other boys. Instead of accepting their cruelty, young Louis begins fighting, stealing, smoking, drinking, and causing so much trouble that his parents believe he may eventually end up in prison. Louis has no purpose and assumes that everyone already sees him as a failure, but his older brother Pete refuses to give up on him. Pete notices that Louis is extremely fast whenever he runs away from the police or other children, so he forces him to join the school track team. Louis hates the training at first because running requires discipline and pain, two things he has always avoided. But Pete continues pushing him and tells him that if he can take the pain, he can make it through anything. Louis slowly begins improving, and for the first time in his life, the same boys who once chased and humiliated him are forced to watch as he leaves them far behind. His anger becomes motivation, his speed becomes confidence, and before long, Louis begins winning races and breaking school records. Newspapers start calling him the Torrance Tornado, and the troubled boy everyone expected to fail becomes one of the best young runners in America. Louis earns a position on the United States Olympic team and travels to the 1936 Berlin Games at only 19 years old. He competes in the 5,000-meter race against older and more experienced athletes, and although he does not win, he runs an incredibly fast final lap that attracts the attention of the entire stadium. Even Adolf Hitler asks to meet the young American who finished with so much power. Louis returns home as a national sports hero and begins training for the 1940 Olympic Games, believing his greatest race is still ahead of him. But the Olympics are cancelled when war spreads across the world, and instead of racing for a medal, Louis joins the United States Army Air Forces. He trains as a bombardier and becomes part of a B-24 crew led by Phil. The men become extremely close because every mission requires them to trust one another with their lives. Their first bomber is called Superman, and after surviving several dangerous missions, the aircraft is nearly destroyed during the attack. Shown at the beginning, the damaged bomber can no longer continue flying, so the crew is later assigned another plane called the Green Hornet, which has a reputation for mechanical problems and is considered one of the least reliable aircraft on the base. Soon, Louis, Phil, and several other men are ordered to search the Pacific for a missing American plane. The crew does not trust the Green Hornet, but they have no choice and begin the mission. While flying over the ocean, one engine suddenly fails. Then another engine stops working. Phil struggles to keep the bomber in the air, but the aircraft rapidly loses altitude and crashes directly into the Pacific. The impact tears the plane apart. Louis is pulled beneath the water and becomes trapped inside the sinking wreckage. For a moment, it appears he will drown, but the cables around him suddenly loosen and allow him to swim toward the surface. Out of the entire crew, only Louis, Phil, and another soldier named Mac survive. The three men climb into two small life rafts, but they have almost no supplies, no working radio, no clear location, and no idea whether anyone is searching for them. Their emergency kit contains only a small amount of chocolate and a few basic tools. Louis tells everyone that the chocolate must be saved and carefully divided, but during the first night, Mac panics and secretly eats all of it. When Louis discovers what happened, he becomes furious because Mac has consumed their only food, but anger cannot bring it back, and the three men must now survive using whatever the ocean provides. During the day, the sun burns their skin. At night, the temperature drops, salt water enters their wounds, and large sharks constantly circle the rafts, waiting for one of them to fall into the water. They have no fresh water until rain finally arrives, so the men open their mouths, use containers to collect every drop, and drink before the water can disappear. When a seabird lands on the raft, Louis suddenly grabs it, but the raw meat is almost impossible to eat, so they use pieces of the bird as bait and manage to catch small fish. Every bite is carefully divided, because even one fish must last as long as possible. Phil continues trusting Louis, but Mac becomes weaker and begins believing that all three of them will die. Louis refuses to let hopelessness take control. He asks Phil questions about food, food, family, and normal life, and the two describe meals they will eat after being rescued, because imagining a future gives them a reason to continue surviving in the present. One day, an aircraft appears in the sky, and the men wave desperately, believing an American rescue plane has finally found them, but as it moves closer, they realize it is Japanese. The plane turns toward them and begins firing. Bullets tear through the rafts, while Louis repeatedly dives into the shark-filled water to avoid being hit. Each time he enters the ocean, sharks swim toward him, forcing him to punch and kick them away before climbing back onto the raft. The aircraft makes several attacks, but somehow none of the men are shot. Although one raft is badly damaged and begins losing air, they use the limited materials around them to repair it before it sinks, but the attack leaves them with even fewer supplies. The days continue passing. Their bodies become painfully thin, their lips split, their skin burns, and they begin losing track of time. Mac's health becomes worse, and on the 33rd day, he quietly dies beside them. Louis and Phil say goodbye before lowering his body into the ocean, then continue drifting alone, knowing they could be next. After 47 days at sea, Louis and Phil finally see land in the distance, but before they can reach it, a Japanese naval ship finds their rafts. They survived the plane crash, sharks, starvation, and enemy gunfire, only to become prisoners of the same military they were fighting. The Japanese sailors pull them aboard, give them a small amount of food, and then take them to a detention facility. Louis and Phil are separated and placed inside filthy cells. They have no proper clothing, almost no food, and no idea what will happen to them. Japanese officers repeatedly question Louis about American aircraft, military bases, and bombing strategies, but he refuses to provide useful information, so the guards beat him and leave him in isolation. After weeks of this treatment, Louis and Phil briefly see each other again. Both men are shocked that the other is still alive, but they are soon separated once more and sent to different prisoner of war camps. Louis is transferred to a camp near Tokyo, where he meets Corporal Mutsuhiro Watanabe, a guard the prisoners call the Bird. Watanabe first appears calm and speaks politely to the new prisoners, but his behavior changes when one man looks directly at him. The Bird strikes the prisoner without warning and explains that nobody is allowed to look at him. He enjoys controlling the men and quickly identifies anyone who still has confidence. When Watanabe discovers that Louis was a famous Olympic runner, he becomes especially interested in him, because Louis' reputation and refusal to appear afraid make the Bird feel challenged. Watanabe orders Louis to look at him, then strikes him for following the order, making it clear that there is no correct response and that the rules exist only to give Watanabe excuses to hurt people. The Bird repeatedly beats Louis with a bamboo stick, forces him to stand at attention for long periods, and punishes him for the smallest mistakes. The other prisoners advise Louis to avoid attracting attention, but Watanabe continues targeting him because breaking an Olympic athlete would prove his power over the entire camp. Louis tries to remain strong by remembering his brother's words, but every day brings more hunger, forced labor, and humiliation. Back in America, Louis's family has been informed that he is missing and presumed dead. His mother refuses to believe it, but there is no evidence that he survived the crash. Then Japanese officials discover how famous Louis was before the war and take him to a radio station. They allow him to record a message telling his family that he is alive. Louis reads the prepared statement, and thousands of miles away, his parents hear his voice for the first time since he disappeared. His family is overwhelmed with relief, but the Japanese officials then reveal the real reason for helping him. They offer Louis clean clothes, good food, and a comfortable place to live. If he agrees to remain at the station and record propaganda messages criticizing the United States, Louis understands that accepting the offer would save him from the prison camp, but it would also mean betraying his country and the other prisoners still suffering there. So he refuses. The officials send him back to the camp where Watanabe is waiting. The Bird is furious that Louis rejected an opportunity to cooperate with Japan, and as punishment, he orders every prisoner in the camp to punch Louis in the face. The men hesitate because Louis is their friend, but Watanabe threatens them until they obey, one by one. The prisoners strike Louis while apologizing, and by the time the final man finishes, Louis can barely remain standing. But he still refuses to beg Watanabe for mercy. Sometime later, the Bird is suddenly transferred away from the camp. Louis watches him leave and feels as though the worst part of his imprisonment may finally be over. Conditions remain harsh, but without Watanabe constantly targeting him, Louis begins recovering some of his strength. Then American bombers start attacking Tokyo, and the prisoners are moved to another camp in Naoetsu, where they must perform exhausting labor in freezing conditions near a coal yard. When Louis arrives, he discovers that Watanabe has also been transferred there and is now in charge. The Bird smiles when he sees Louis, because the prisoner he failed to break has been returned to him. Life in the new camp is even more brutal. The prisoners carry heavy materials while receiving almost no food. Many are sick, their clothing does not protect them from the cold, and anyone who slows down is beaten by the guards. During one work shift, Louis badly injures his ankle and can no longer carry the same loads as the other men. He is moved to lighter work, but Watanabe sees the injury as another chance to humiliate him. The Bird orders Louis to lift an enormous wooden beam beam above his head, then tells a guard to shoot him if he drops it. Louis is starving, injured, and physically exhausted, but he raises the beam. At first, Watanabe expects him to collapse within seconds, but Louis continues holding it. His arms shake, blood runs down his face, and the other prisoners silently watch. Louis remembers every moment that brought him here, Pete forcing him to run, the Olympic Stadium, the plane crash, the ocean, the sharks, and the 47 days when he refused to die. He straightens his body, lifts the beam even higher, and looks directly at Watanabe, showing that the bird can hurt him but still cannot force him to surrender. The other prisoners begin watching Louis with renewed hope, while Watanabe realizes that his punishment is creating the opposite result. Instead of breaking Louis, he has given the entire camp proof that the bird is not as powerful as he believes. Furious and humiliated, Watanabe attacks Louis and beats him until he falls to the ground. But everyone has already seen Louis remain standing longer than anyone thought possible. As the war begins turning against Japan, conditions inside the camp become even worse. Food almost disappears. American planes fly closer, and the prisoners hear rumors that Japanese guards may kill everyone before allowing them to be rescued. Then one morning, the camp becomes strangely quiet. The guards are gone, and the prisoners do not understand what has happened. Eventually, they learn that Japan has surrendered, and the war is finally over. American aircraft fly over the camp and drop food, clothing, and supplies. The prisoners run beneath the planes, waving, laughing, and crying as they realize they are no longer captives. Louis enters Watanabe's empty quarters, but the bird has already escaped, so Louis never gets the chance to confront him before leaving the camp. The surviving prisoners wash in the river, receive medical care, and are transported back to the United States. When Louis finally reaches home, his family waits for him at the station. His mother sees the son she believed she had lost, and Louis embraces his parents and siblings after years of separation. The final scenes reveal that Louis later married and had children, and after struggling with the memories of the war, he returned to Japan to meet and forgive many of the guards who had abused him, although Watanabe refused to meet him decades later at the age of 80. Louis carries the Olympic torch through Japan and passes the location where the prison camp once stood. After surviving the crash, 47 days at sea, years of imprisonment, and every attempt made to break him, Louis completes the race that lasted for most of his life. And this is where Louis Zamperini's story in the movie ends. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Movier for more exciting movie recaps, and tell us in the comments, do you think you could survive 47 days at sea and years inside a prison camp without giving up?